Matthew 5, the Beatitudes. Here's a couple of them. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who are hungry. Blessed are those who are persecuted. Now, it's good when we hurt. Why is that good? It's the desert. Why are we blessed when we mourn? Not because they went to heaven. I mean, yeah, that's a great thing. But we're blessed when we mourn. I mean, it hurts when somebody dies. Even Jesus cried when one of his friends, Lazarus, died. It hurts when somebody dies. But we're blessed when we mourn, because when we mourn, there's nowhere else to turn, and you come face to face with God and all your pain, and that's a blessing. Why are we blessed when we're hungry? Because in your hunger, you turn and you seek God, and you know God in a way you didn't before when your fridge was full. Know him in a way you didn't before. Matthew 4, Jesus goes into the desert. Why? Because he wants to see God face to face. But the devil comes up to him and he's like, you have all this power, you have all this strength. Just take this rock and turn it into bread so you can eat. And Jesus says, no. Why? Because he wanted to depend on God. He wanted to be hungry enough so the tears would run down his face and he could see God face to face. We need to go to the desert. But the problem is that we've made this Christian life seem like Hawaii. And sometimes it is. But when this desert comes along, we're scared to death. We're scared to death of pain, to take up our cross, to suffer for God. And we haven't really understood that when it's in these tough times that we really know God. Psalm 23 again. If I can get there. Such a long way from Matthew. Anyway. Why shouldn't we worry? Or why shouldn't a goat worry? Why shouldn't a goat worry?
Because of the shepherd. Because of the shepherd?
There's one thing. He has a shepherd. And the shepherd, he leads them to where he has just enough. He's got the rest of the flock. He has enough for now, and he has a shepherd that's leading him to that spots. It says in Psalms 23, he leads me to green pastures. Now that verse, it's not a one-time thing. If you translated it right back into the actual Hebrew, it's the Lord keeps on leading me into green pastures. He keeps on leading me into green pastures. And all you have now is just enough for that moment. Is anybody lacking something right now that they can't continue without? Why? Why shouldn't we worry about 10 minutes later? Why shouldn't we worry about 30 minutes later? Or why shouldn't we worry about tonight? Or when we go home, or tomorrow, or next week? Why shouldn't we worry? Because when we get there, we will have just enough for that moment. Worry is dealing with tomorrow's problems with today's pasture. And we don't have what it takes to deal with tomorrow. We aren't going to get that strength until 1 minute. We aren't going to get that strength even 1 minute before we get there. We will get that strength for tomorrow when we get there. We will have enough for that moment. Faith is dealing with tomorrow. No. Faith is believing that I don't have to sweat tomorrow. Plan? Sure, yeah, you might have to plan. Work? Yeah, you probably have to work for it. And think about it? Maybe. But faith is believing that I don't have to sweat about tomorrow, because when I get there, I will have the pasture for that moment. I will have just enough for that instance. And what happens when you start to worry, or what happens when a goat wanders off away from the flock? It dies. Like when a goat or a sheep, when a goat or sheep wanders off, they might wander into a different flock that isn't following the shepherd. And this whole flock is already dead. And this goat might die too. It's dangerous when we go to these other groups and start hanging out with them and just hanging with them all the time and becoming best friends. If they're not following God, it's very dangerous. If they're not following the right shepherd, it's dangerous. But when you're following the right shepherd, you'll always have enough for now. When you're not following him, you might run out of grass or of water or of what you need. God's green pastures keeps on leading me for the moment. Psalm 23. The Lord leads me to still waters. The Lord leads me to green pastures. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for God is there. For you are there. On God's path, it goes through the desert sometimes. And you'll run into these huge rocks. But every rock will have enough honey. You might fall in a wadi and get stuck. But God will lift you out of that. He'll lead you to the waters that you need to drink. He'll bring you enough shade to survive. And He'll bring you the right fruits to eat so that you don't die. We need the trust in God for today. In Exodus, the people are running around in the desert, and they have no water. They run out of water, they run out of food, and they don't have any shade. So God sends them water. He gives them water. Then God gives them quail and manna to eat, so that they may be filled. And He provides shade for them. And they trust in Him for that day. Who honestly woke up to this morning and said, God, if you don't give me what I need today, I'm not going to make it. If you don't give me my pasture for this moment, I'm going to die. I won't make it. We aren't desert people by nature, but we need to try. We need to try and live in the desert. Proverbs 30, what I read in the beginning, I'm going to read it again. Two things I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you, and say, who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal, and so dishonor the name of my God. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but only my daily bread. Give me just what I need for now, so that I don't become too rich and forget you, or I don't become too poor and start to sin against you and steal. You need to live in the desert, because in the desert, it's a blessing, because you only trust God. You can only turn to God in the desert. He's the only one that will help you. He's the only one that can help you. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for all you've done in our lives. I thank you for providing the pastures that we need for this moment. And I just thank you for pulling us out of the wadis when we're in trouble. I thank you for just putting enough honey in these rocks so that we can keep going. I just pray that we just keep following you and striving towards you, Lord. Because when we do that, we'll always have enough for now. We're following the right shepherd. Just pray for all of us that we just keep our mind and our eyes and our hearts open to see what you have to show us, Lord. And that we aren't like the robbers. We're not empty, full of death on the inside. That we're like a tree planted by the stream. That we're just sucking in all this information that you have for us. Wow. just pray that you're just with us, like you always have been. In the most awesome, amazing way.